Welcome to the category of flood insurance. Pamela Moats is the flood program manager of Philadelphia Insurance Company, who is our specialty mortgage providers for this very essential coverage. Let me tell you just a little bit about Pamela. 30 years ago, she began her insurance career with a small insurance agency in Florida, and she wrote personal lines of coverage like flood. On October the 19th, to be exact, 1987, she pulled her first flood map and quoted her first flood policy. And during those 16 years of her first 16 years of her career, she's written more than 300 flood insurance policies while working as an agent. In 1999, she began working for the Philadelphia insurance companies, and she eventually became the flood product manager in 2005. Now, in that position, she assists agents in better understanding the National Flood Insurance Program and Philadelphia's commercial primary flood program. She also assists agents with policy issues and questions about quoting, coverage limits, and claims. So, Pamela, let's start by having you define flood insurance.
Well, hi, George. Flood is a general and temporary condition of partial or complete inundation of 2 or more acres of normally dry land area or of 2 or more properties, one of which is your property, from overflow of inland or tidal waters, unusual and rapid accumulation or runoff of surface waters from any source, or mud flow.
Fascinating. What's it cost?
Well, the average cost of a flood insurance policy is $700 per year, but this amount can be misleading. If your home or building is located in a low-risk area and you need minimal coverage levels, your costs will likely be much less. For homes or buildings located in a high-risk zone and has a higher value, the cost will be much higher.
Okay, well, that's what it costs. What does it cover?
For the National Flood Insurance Program, that's the NFIP, which is the federal program. Dwellings, which are your single family dwellings, your 2 to 4 family type buildings, and condominium units, these can be insured up to $250,000 for the building and up to $100,000 for your personal property. Commercial buildings can be insured up to $500,000 for the building and up to $500,000 for the contents. Commercial buildings that may be eligible for our commercial primary flood program can be insured up to $5 million for the building, $1 million for the contents, or $5 million combined. And this policy can also offer up to $100,000 of business income or loss of use coverage.
I see. Do I require it? How do I know? How's the average person out there know if they require flood insurance?
If the property is not in a high-risk area, but in a moderate to low-risk area, federal law does not require flood insurance. However, a lender or mortgage company can still require this coverage. It is recommended to purchase flood insurance as about 1 in 4 flood claims come from these moderate to low-risk areas. Ask yourself this question: can I afford not to have a flood insurance policy if I have a loss? The average claim payment to those who had a flood policy and had damage from Hurricane Harvey this year is over $100,000. Not many can afford to write a $100,000 check or to take out a $100,000 loan. FEMA does not always offer support after a flood. The President of the United States must declare an area a disaster area. And once that disaster area declaration is made, FEMA can begin helping those who need assistance. Note that any monies given to you from FEMA are a loan that must be paid back. If you have a flood insurance policy, you will file a claim for damages. Covered damages are paid for under your policy limits. And just like any other policy, these funds do not need to be paid back.
I see. Fascinating. Now, there are flood zones. What do they mean?
The high risk or special flood hazard areas are an area having special flood, mud flow or flood-related erosion hazards, and shown on a flood insurance rate map and begin with the letters A or V. All V zones are coastal properties, and the V stands for velocity. And this takes into consideration the wave action that will bring the water onto the shore. The moderate to low risk flood zones are B, C, and X. Flood zone D is undetermined, and this zone is used mostly during the initial process of a community coming into the National Flood Insurance Program, or an area that has not been studied by FEMA to determine its actual flood risk.
I see. How long does it take to get flood insurance?
It takes 30 days unless your building is closing on a loan. A new policy can then be purchased with an effective date of the loan closing. And I do want to add that under our commercial primary flood policy, there is not a waiting period.
I see. That's interesting. Now, can I buy flood insurance if, say, I'm not in a flood zone?
All buildings are in a flood zone. As long as your community participates in the National Flood Insurance Program, you can purchase a flood policy.
I see. Okay. Is hurricane insurance the same as flood insurance?
Well, private homeowners insurance does not cover flood damage, but it should cover any damage caused by hurricane winds, or if you live in a coastal area, you may have a separate wind policy. Any hurricane damage from rising water is covered by flood insurance, and you must have a separate flood policy. And I do want to note that some coverage under a commercial primary, let me start that over again, and I apologize.
No,
I want to note that some commercial package policies do have flood coverage added as an endorsement.
I see.
Business owners should check their policy to see if they have this coverage.
Oh boy, for sure. Well, last but not least, what do I need to know if I'm going to go buy a flood insurance policy?
Ask your agent what is and what is not covered. If you have a basement, ask what is and what is not covered in a basement. There is very limited coverage for basements. There are also different deductible options. Ask your agent to provide a quote with all of the options that are available. Mm-hmm. There will be a separate deductible for the building coverage and a separate deductible for the contents coverage. Determine what you can afford out of pocket if you do have a claim.
That is really a good overview, Pamela, and I thank you for it because it's easy to understand, short, sweet, and to the point. But I think the next step is vital for any of the visitors who would like to secure flood insurance or know even more about it. You hit the back button on your browser, then you click on Contact Us, and you'll be connected immediately with the sponsoring USA Insurance Network agency in your area. Now, Pamela and her people there at Philadelphia Insurance Company have provided for each of our agencies a real explanation of everything they need to know about flood insurance. And the application, everything is linked, but it's the legal information. Well, it's just everything that the agent needs to know to help you. So Pamela and Philadelphia again, I thank you very much for your cooperation. We're looking forward to having a whole lot of people in the United States, particularly after what happened in 2017. A whole lot of people are going to be talking to Philadelphia Insurance Company for flood insurance, and it's well deserved. Thanks again.
Thank you, George.